In the height of the Cold War, the Soviet Union was determined to create a computer system that could rival the power of the West. Yet, despite the investment of millions of rubles and the efforts of some of the top minds in the country, the project was deemed a failure. But why did this grand plan fall apart? In today's video, we're going to go back into history and see how the Soviet computer failed, so stick around to the end. Welcome to the Seeker's Edge, where we seek knowledge that'll give you an edge in life. Let's begin. The Cold War was a period of political and military tension between the Western powers, led by the United States, and the Eastern powers led by the Soviet Union. During this period, both sides sought to gain an edge in technological and military capabilities, leading to the development of various advanced technologies, including computer systems. Soviet engineers were taken aback by the United States' creation of the first programmable general-purpose computer, the Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, ENIAC, which was unveiled in 1946. This prompted the Soviet Union to make its own advances in computer technology, with the goal of creating a powerful computer system that could compete with the United States. However, this was not the only reason that the Soviet Union decided to invest in computer systems. Most of the politicians didn't believe that the ENIAC was very much of a threat. They thought it was propaganda. The Soviet politicians had their own agenda for a computer system, and it was to increase their nuclear power. The nuclear program of the Soviet Union required very complex math equations. These equations were solved by people, mostly young calculator girls. The Soviet government had to enhance the process of calculating, like their nuclear weapons endeavors requires more than 100 young calculator girls, and these girls have to work 8 hours a day on a regular basis just for the sake of doing calculations. The administrators were worried about finding the right number of people to get calculations that are free from error. This initiated the Soviet government to launch ITMVT. In 1950, the Institute of Precision Mechanics and Computer Technology was founded with the goal of developing advanced computer technology. The ITMVT was led by Sergey Lebedev. Sergey Lebedev was a prominent computer scientist in Soviet Russia who made significant contributions to the development of computer technology in the Soviet Union. In the early 1940s, Lebedev was working as an engineer at the Kiev Institute of Electrotechnology when he became interested in the possibility of building an electronic computer. After the Second World War, Lebedev moved to the Institute of Electrical Engineering in Moscow, where he began working on the design and construction of a computer. In 1950, he and his team completed the first version of the machine, which they called the Small Electronic Calculating Machine. MESM was a relatively simple machine, with a 4,000-word memory and a clock speed of about 1 kilohertz. However, it was still a major achievement for the Soviet Union, which had lagged behind, far behind actually, the United States in computer technology. In 1951, MESM made its first real calculation, which was a significant milestone in the development of computer technology in the Soviet Union. The calculation involved the computation of a table of values for a mathematical function, which took about 20 seconds to complete. This achievement was significant because it demonstrated that the Soviet Union was capable of developing computer technology that was on par with the rest of the world. It's quite funny that Lebedev and his team made this breakthrough, because he was very skeptical at first of electronic computers and believed that mechanical, analog calculating machines were more reliable. As a result, ITMVT initially focused on developing these machines rather than electronic computers. Despite this, the ITMVT eventually shifted its focus to electronic computing and began working in the development of the MESM, small electronic computer, in the mid-1950s. The MESM was the first electronic computer built in the Soviet Union, and it was heavily inspired by the British EDSAC computer. While it was a significant accomplishment, the MESM was not powerful enough to meet the Soviet Union's goals for a powerful computer system. But Lebedev's work helped to establish the Soviet Union as a major player in the field of computer technology, and paved the way for the development of more sophisticated machines in the years to come. The computer models that followed the MESM were called the BESM and STRELA, S-T-R-E-L-A. With BESM, or BESM, being one of the most notable achievements during this period, it was a high-speed digital computer designed by an engineer named Nikolai Bruevich, who sought to build a machine that could compete with the best computers in the world. BESM stands for Bolshaya Elektronaya Shetnaya Mashina, which actually means large calculating machine. The idea for the BESM project began in 1951 when the Soviet government allowed the Institute of Precision Mechanics and Computer Technology to begin to work on a new computer. The development of the BESM was a significant challenge, and the project encountered a number of setbacks. One of the primary issues was the lack of experienced personnel and modern equipment, which made it difficult to manufacture high-quality components. Additionally, the team struggled to obtain the necessary components, as many of them were only available from Western suppliers. Despite these difficulties, the team eventually completed the BESM 1 in 1956, and it quickly proved to be a significant achievement. See, this computer was capable of processing up to 2,000 operations per second, and had a memory capacity of up to 8,000 words, which put the BESM 1 on par with some of the best computers in the world at the time, and it quickly gained a reputation for its reliability and performance. However, the BESM 1 success was soon followed by controversy. The Special Design Bureau 245, SKB 245, the government organization responsible for producing high-precision devices and instruments, had failed to deliver the essential components for the computer. This led to a series of disagreements between the SKB 245 and the ITMVT, which threatened to derail the project. Despite these issues, the BESM 1 remained in use throughout the 1950s and into the early 1960s as well, and it played a significant role in the Soviet scientific research. In 1961, the government tasked the ITMVT with developing a new computer that would surpass the BESM 1, and the team responded by proposing the STRELA project. However, the STRELA project was ultimately a disappointment. While the computer was faster than the BESM 1, it also was less reliable and suffered from a number of design flaws. Additionally, the project was plagued by a lack of funding and resources, which hindered its development and ultimately led to its failure. In summary, the development of the BESM computer represented a significant achievement for Soviet scientists and engineers. While the project faced a number of challenges, it ultimately succeeded in producing a high-speed digital computer that was on par with some of the best computers in the world at the time. However, the STRELA project that followed was again a disappointment, and it failed to live up to the expectations set by the BESM 1. The MESM, the BESM, and the STRELA were all first-generation computers and were severely hindered by the use of vacuum tubes. Vacuum tubes have been the primary technology used in computer systems since the 1940s, but they were bulky, expensive, and prone to failure. This was all changed when vacuum tubes were replaced by transistors. Because transistors, on the other hand, were much smaller, more reliable, and cheaper to produce. The use of transistors enabled the development of second-generation computers. These smaller computers were faster. They were more powerful than their vacuum-tubed predecessors. One of the most influential second-generation computers was the IBM 1401, which was introduced in 1959. This was a United States computer that gave the country the upper hand. The IBM 1401 was a business-oriented computer that was designed to be used with a range of commercial peripherals, such as printers and tape drives. This made it a highly flexible and adaptable system that could be customized to suit a wide range of applications. The IBM 1401 was an enormous commercial success, and it helped to establish IBM as one of the leading manufacturers in computers in the world. Other companies such as Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC, and Control Data Corporation, CDC, also entered the computer market during this time and began to develop their own second-generation systems. The Soviet Union responded with a second-generation computer of their own, and this was the BESM 6. It was the first supercomputer of the Soviet Union that was able to do more than 1 million operations per second. By 1967, the product had entered production and was widely used throughout the country's computer centers. Well, its adoption on a huge scale allows the development of new software and multi-program operating systems. It actually showed amazing progress over time. However, the Americans were already making their way to the next big thing. You see, the Soviets lagged 2 or 3 years behind the West in delivering first and second generation computers. They were behind, but not that far behind. After the evaluation to the third generation computers, which allowed for even greater levels of miniaturization and speed, this gap eventually widened, and the Soviet Union never recovered. Third generation systems were also capable of processing larger amounts of data and running more complex software programs. These systems paved the way for modern computing as we know it today, and set the stage for further advancements in computer technology in the decades to come. But what happened during the era of the third generation computer systems? In the late 1960s, IBM announced its System 360, a complete line of computer hardware that was both backward and forward compatible, which changed pretty much the entire game of the computer industry, and it became the biggest commercial success for IBM. In response, the demand for future computers in the Soviet Union increased, and it seemed like there would be no limit to what could be produced. However, the country's computer efforts started to receive criticism from major Soviet newspapers, pointing out that the existing industry efforts were disjointed and required centralization. As a result, the Soviet Communist Party consolidated all disparate computing industries through Resolution 1180/420 in 1967. This resolution aimed to create a series of unified third-generation computers for all problems called Единая система, which means unified systems in English. The resolution increased the computer manufacturing budget tenfold to 3 billion rubles in 1975, which was meant to build 28 new computer plants, expand the current 22 plants, and produce 20,000 computers by 1975. In order to build the ES, the two ministries responsible for the development copied the American IBM 360 model design to make the ES compatible from 360 software. However, this decision raised a lot of arguments, as some believed that it would make the USSR an intellectual colony of the West. A few intellectual scientists felt that this was an opportunity to pioneer a new Soviet computing experience from scratch, but built to meet the modern Soviet standards. However, when the decision was made, the US government prohibited IBM from exporting 360 systems to the Soviet Union, meaning that the Soviets wouldn't have access to the required documentation and would need to get genuine systems through intermediaries or espionage. In response, ICL, the biggest computer producer in the United Kingdom, offered to share the technology and documentation from their 360-compatible System 4 line of computers in 1968. ICL was also ready to commit notable funds and send specialists over for the co-development of the ES in the future. This was an auspicious alternative strategy for the Soviets to get 360 software compatibility, hands-on experience, and British programming methods, and also combine their industrial sovereignty. However, working with ICL would result in late delivery of the project by at least 1.5 years, which would have been politically difficult to accept given the wide gap between the Soviet and the American computers. This decision had devastating and long-lasting consequences on the computing industry of the Soviet Union. Many computer scientists resigned in protest, and Sergey Lebedev, the computer legend, tried to reverse the decision later on, but failed. Even though creating the ES fell short of the alternatives taken by the West, the Soviet Union never recovered and ultimately lost the computer race. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you liked the video, please subscribe to The Seeker's Edge. And if you're interested in the Soviet Union's effort to creating the internet, please check out the next video. Until next time, ka-chow. Or just ciao, right?